Gabriel had drawn Joe and himself into the comic book. Very Velasquez of you, you know, and then we had the actual opportunity to do the exact same thing. So it was this kind of really great meta homage that they were paramedics both in the comic books, and then they would end up doing that in the show.
We are running a little long on time, so
Okay.
I just
Okay.
wanna.
Before we
You should
open,
go find this cameo in the show, though.
Yeah,
Go
it's very
find
cool.
it. It's that's your assignment.
Before we open up questions to the room, I do just want to, we have some journalists who have graciously joined us from abroad on the line, and I just want to ask a couple of their questions that they've sent in ahead of time. So if you could just briefly answer these, that would be great. So first is from Diego Munoz, from Chile for Joe. What about Gabriel's artwork convinced you to work with him on Locke and Key?
Yeah, I spoke to that a little bit earlier. I think it's because a good series succeeds when you fall in love with the characters. That you have to have that feeling of investment in the heroes, or none of the suspense works when they're in danger. You know, this is, I always talk about you know, the 80s slasher films as an example of you know, ineffective horror and fantasy storytelling, because you know, when like Freddy Krueger would go after the teenagers, they were just one-note types. There was like the jock, there was the cheerleader, there was the pot smoker. The person who had the most depth to his character was Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
And so you wind up actually kind of rooting for the serial killer, which who wants to do that? You know, I'd rather root for a hero. I would just say that the 80s slasher films generally, I feel like, didn't really work as horror or fantasy, but did kind of work as slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
But you know, so when I looked at, you know, when we were trying to find an artist for Locke and Key, and I looked at some artists who could really draw, you know, flying intestines. But that didn't really interest me. What I liked was that in Gabe's art, his characters had luminous eyes and micro expressions. You know, the real fine subtleties to reveal what they were feeling and the way they stood in their body language. And I thought, you know, I could fly with this guy. You know, he could be a pair of wings. So that's how I wound up working with Gabriel Rodriguez, not because he draws great monsters, although he does, but because he draws great humans.
Very cool. And from Carolina from Mexico, the world's going through a lot of changes right now, scary changes, and new generations are becoming harder to scare. What's different about writing scary stories today? I feel like that's a question for, all of you.
Is anything different? I mean, isn't it always about, you know, you get some characters you love, and then you back them into the dark basement and see if they can fight their way out, you know? And it's always about that. That's not good horror fiction. That's just good fiction.
Yeah, it's a thing about life in which I can't think of something scarier than growing up. And I think that's something so universal and so visceral and so real for everyone. I remember like the creepiest moment in my life as a child was when I realized that adults don't behave like adults. And that was like opening the floor under my feet, and it was like, this is what adulthood is about trying to deal with these people that support to behave in a certain way, and they don't. And they are still trapped in their fears and their unwillingness to do the thing they need to do to be better and to be better to each other. So I think in a way it's like maybe the way in which we're facing these scares are different throughout time, but I think we all are rooted to some basic like sense of fear that's about like growing and facing problems, and also about getting out of ourselves. I think it's so easy these days to sit around ourselves, to look at ourselves throughout the way in which others perceive us. I think in a way, for me, the thing that gripped me the most about modern technology is we are surrounded by these tools that are supposed to build windows to relate to each other, and that we have turned those windows into mirrors to look at ourselves. And I think that's sort of the traps that we need to break. I think creativity, excellent tool to turn those mirrors into windows again and open portals to connect people.
Yeah, every kid is scared of the darkness under the bed. And in Lock and Key, the darkness literally comes out from under the bed, springs off the walls, and chases you around the house.
Yeah.
But the two weapons you can, use to push back against fear is a sense of wonder and a sense of curiosity. And I think those are things the show really leans into. That it leavens its fear with a feeling of, but the imaginative possibilities of being a child with these keys is kind of amazing too, and let's explore that a little bit.
And I guess the one thing I would add is to the question is that in a world that is scary and alienating, it's great to escape into a story where you have characters who you care about and who care about each other. And so
Yeah.
the essence of the story is really, in the face of these things that are horrifying and scary, watching characters who rely on each other to find their way out of problems, and that's very reassuring.
I don't think we attempted very ironic or sarcastic storytelling. That the goal was to do something that felt heartfelt and that sort of emphasized some values of being connected and being curious.